You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. How do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, my God, I'm going to change something. Now we say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
The dreamers of the day. I love it. I love it. Welcome to Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, Personal Development with a Business Plan. Of course, this is episode 130. And of course, sorry I missed last week. I'm not going to get into it now, but I will share it with Joey afterwards, right? If you remember, Joe, just say hello first, and then we'll get on with it.
Yeah, good day, Mike. Good day, Mike. Good day, everyone. It's a joy to be here. Another day, another week. So, I'm very grateful that we are able to be present today, and looking forward for our podcast tonight, and hopefully we can add value in some way, and we share with other what we learn, and also what we can learn from other people too. So,
yeah, I'm excited as well, actually. And of course, if you remember, we were watching Kevin Trudeau, and he was going through the brain waves and everything else. We've got the second part of that, the missing ingredients. I've been thinking about it a lot. But of course, look, this show's all about thinking and doing better. And that's what it's really about. We all want better, like every one of us. And it doesn't matter whether it's better health, better wealth, more money in your pocket, whatever it is, better relationships. We all want better. So being able to think about it in a certain way or a deliberate way can only help. But don't forget, like, subscribe, share, click that notification button. You'll learn when we're on. And of course, you can find me here on Facebook, maybe not so much, but you can definitely find Joey here on Facebook, right? And of course, go and check him out. He produces a lot of content, a lot of fun, and it's well worth it. And of course, we all know Joey's real name, which is Joey the $1 Million Difference Maker Makaunga, right? So we all know that, right? So how's it going, Joe?
Very good, Mike. Pretty much the rest this weekend. I think I pull my back muscle on my back, but I think sometimes it allowed me to have to look after my body and just have a good rest. And yes, I did. I just get to go outside and mow the lawn and do some gardening, and then come back and get ready for our program tonight. So very good.
Good. All right. Well, listen. Look, we'll get into this video right away. We're about halfway through, and if you remember, he was talking about decalcifying the pineal gland, and he was getting into that, the hippocampus, and all this kind of stuff. But it was fascinating. I've been thinking a lot about obviously these brain waves, the gamma, the beta, theta, delta, what was the other one? Alpha. And of course, it's so, when you become aware of this stuff, Joe, when you're not doing it. Do you know what I mean? And then you have to change your mind quickly to I said before, that life is, we live it in moments, and then, you have these moments, then there are distractions, and then it's what happens in the next 5 minutes after that. As to whether you're going to continue down on that distraction or whether you're going to pull yourself back in line and say, right, okay, we're going again. But anyway, listen, we'll get into this. We'll add it to the stage and we'll get into it. We'll have a little listen.
And then you can take some supplements. And there are several supplements on the market that decalcify or get the fluoride out and decalcify the hippocampus. Some of them are in a dropper, and you take this dropper of nutrients and it helps to decalcify. There's several brands out there. I've looked at about 4 or 5, and I think they're all very, very good. The key ingredients, though, are spirulina and chlorella. Spirulina and chlorella pull and draw out and will, over a period of about 90 days, if you take it every day, decalcify that hippocampus. And how do we know? All you have to do is do a brain scan. You can see the hippocampus that's calcified, and then 90 days later, you can do another one. You can see that it's a lot less decalcified. Therefore, it's more active. If you just do that, you're going to increase your power to broadcast in the alpha, theta, billionaire brainwave. You're going to be able to put out on that frequency your vibrations of what you want, or your thoughts of what you want, or your desires. Each desire has a frequency, and you'll be broadcasting on the frequency that the universe is dialed into. Therefore, the universe picks it up, and therefore you've activated the law of attraction, so that by a magnetic pull, what you want starts getting created in the ether, and then starts to physically manifest and is drawn into your life and reality. It sounds esoteric, I know, but it's not. It's actually science, because everything I say is backed up by numerous studies by very legitimate scientists and researchers, published research. It's not fantasy. It's real. Okay, forget the research, forget the science. Let's just look at reality. Just look at people that manifest things. There's your evidence. There's your substantiation and documentation that it really does work. And some people can argue, but at the end of the day, whatever you're doing ain't working. So who's the fool? Think about it. So number one, you want to decalcify that hippocampus. Then you want to get the hippocampus bigger. So how do you grow the hippocampus? How do you get it bigger? Now, there are some things that you can do that science, not me, but science has proven will begin to increase the size of your hippocampus. So if you have a hippocampus that is active, it's no longer calcified, so it's active, and you can get it bigger, then your broadcasting power gets stronger and more intense. You are then capable of thinking about what you want, picturing yourself in attainment of your desire, feeling now as if you were actually in attainment of it, with a burning desire, a need to have it, which is contracted energy, and that will go out into the physical universe with power and intensity on the correct brainwave and therefore be picked up by the universe. So the bigger and more
Rookie mistake. Rookie. This actually reminds me, Joe, of what you were talking about. Obviously, your pineal gland and your hippocampus are broadcasting, pretty good, right? Because if you remember a couple of weeks back, you were telling a story about how you helped a little kid, and these things just happen to you all throughout the day. Do you know what I mean? So many different things. But you deliberately set out with the intention of that. You broadcast that early on in the day when you got up, that you were going to help some people today. Do you know what I mean? You literally broadcast it. And then all of these things manifested, into your life for those things to take place, for those things to happen. So clearly you're doing that.
Yeah. You're so right. You just remind me back, that story I told a few weeks ago. I think back in January, to be exact, is around on the 17th of. It was a ticket that I pre-booked, and then I'm by mistake, and I realized when I got to the airport, the lady at the counter said to me, Mr. Unga, do you know this ticket is not? I booked the ticket to January, but I went back in, I think it was December last year, for that this is the ticket that I'm going to fly today. And the lady remind me that this ticket is belong to the next year, so January. So, and instead of cancel, because I can't cancel the ticket or refund, the best way for me is to work out another way to go to that place. I think I end up driving instead of, and the driving was not short distance, it was a long distance, 11 hours each way, but I did manage to take my wife with me and have spent some quality time. But my wife said to me, don't worry about it. Just, when we get to January, use the ticket and just go to January. And I didn't plan anything. I have a few friends that I reach out to them, and end up they cancel our meeting in the last minute. So I said to myself, my intention is when I go to any place, is to leave an impression of increase in that environment or the people that I met. And I think we all learned that concept from Bob Proctor, always leave an impression of, and I didn't nominate the people that I'm going to meet. I just said to myself, I'm going to leave a deposit, I'm going to leave the place and the people I met on the journey, better than what I found them. And exactly that's what happened on that day. That day, I went and saw a physio that we have a last minute communication. He didn't expect me. We didn't book a schedule. I end up, he used his service. I pay him some money. He didn't want to because he just wanted to show me his service to me. But out of my heart, I just said, this guy, this is his business at home. And I make me feel good, because we exchanged, service and I left the guy and I went to a little town just to get some lunch. I wandering around. I didn't know anyone there. Say hello to the people. Then one little boy just came on his bike and said to me, "Mister, do you have any money?" And I said, "I don't have any cash with me, but can I ask why you ask for money?" He said, "I just need to buy something to eat." He was in the bar playing with his friend, and they all left, and he's on his way home, but his home is about maybe half an hour or 20 minutes to go back home, but he was hungry and he saw me. And I said to me, why he picked me? And I didn't say it to him, but I just said, why he picked me? You know, this kid has taught me something that, you know, out of courage. And, we never met him. You know, I'm a Tongan and I'm a big guy and he's a small guy. Why he was approaching me? And sometimes it's related to what we do. Sometimes we have to get out of our fear and ask. All it takes is just ask someone, because you never know, and
Isn't that interesting, Joye? That little kid, right?
Yeah.
He's all, like he's going to be a great network marketer one day, right? 'Cause he's not afraid to ask people, right? Amazing.
Yeah. So out of my heart, I just, I took him to the restaurant because, nowadays, people, when they see you stranger with a little kids, they, a lot of things nowadays, So I make sure that I took him to the where, and I asked him, what do you want? He said, I just want like a chicken and chips. And I said, okay, let's go. And I took him and I introduced myself to the counter. And I said, I want to buy lunch to this little boy, take it home. So when we got his food, he said to me, Mister, thank you very much. You're so kind. I never know you, but I thought that you're gonna reject me, but you didn't reject me, but how do you feel hard? I said, look, and I think I shared with you on that podcast. My hope for that kid is just, to pay it forward. That hopefully one day someone will come up to him and said, maybe a little kid or someone else, and said, look, mister, are you able to help him? And maybe he will remind the kindness that I showed to him, and he able to do it to other people too. And then from there, I rang my uncle. He's a minister, and I asked him, what do you do today? And he said, I'm just at my lounge reading some books. And I said, I'm in town. Would I able to take you for lunch? And he said, of course, I'm happy you're here. And I didn't know, your wife didn't tell me you're coming there, because that's my wife, uncle. But I end up leave a deposit. I took him. We went for lunch, and he shared with me his spiritual life and journey. I learned, and what I learned nowadays, it's less talk and more listen to people, because you learn more when you listen, but going back to what you said to me is so true. When you align your intention is aligned with what the universe is lay in front of you. Don't be surprised what you ask for. It's like the genie in a bottle. Your wishes might, whatever you ask or intention or thinking or intentionally want to do in life, the universe or God, whatever you believe in, it will be open up the door for you. And it's sometimes it's kind of like give you an opportunity, whether you still want to do what you want to do, or you just do it in a way that you just, maybe I just want to get something out of it. But in reality, when your intention is aligned with what your heart is, sometimes they said get out of your mind into your heart. And when you want to serve from your heart, it's so good. You come back, you feel like, now I'm living in a world of abundance, and God has blessed me with abundance through my work, my service, my business, my investment. And here I am in the world. If I live today, I think I leave an impression in people's life, and I make a deposit in where I go in people's life.
But you have more than one example of that, Joey, of your intention, your intentional thinking, acting on the thing that you want. When I think about, when you wanted to join the army, and they literally didn't, you're the last person through the door, and it was like, no, there's no space for you on the plane and everything else like this. And, you're almost like, well, I'm not actually accepting that as an answer. Put me down as a cancellation, if someone cancels or anything else. And whether or somebody cancelled or not, they made room for you on the plane. Do you know what I mean? Because of your intention, because of how you were thinking, how you put yourself across, so you got to act, walk, talk like you were acting, walking, and talking like you were already on the plane.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, and I can see lots of examples of that, in my life. I was actually talking to a good friend of ours earlier this week, Heather, and I was talking to her about these brain waves and everything else, and I was saying that I said it's really interesting because you've got all of these books, Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Thinking Big, Science of Getting Rich, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, all of these books, we read them all, and then, you kind of wonder, why is nothing changing? Why is nothing changing? Do you know what I mean? And I was saying to Heather, like understanding now this missing ingredient, which is, understanding how, the brain wave that you're in, that you're actually in, and if you could, and then I was explaining them to Heather and I was saying, I can see in areas of my life, when I was having, certainly when I was working in construction, I was having a lot of success, that every milestone that I met, I actually met it before in my mind. Do you know what I mean? I was actually being, before I became a site agent, I was acting like a site agent. Do you know what I mean? Before I became a contracts manager, I was acting like a contracts manager and behaving like a contracts manager, thinking like a contracts manager. Do you know what I mean? And then I was getting these positions, and it was like seamless. Do you know what I mean? Within 10 years, I was at the top of the tree. But I had those visualizations that this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going, and I just had it. But it's clear to me now when I look back, and what is it, Steve Jobs? He says, you only connect the dots looking back. And when I look back now, I can literally see, where, in my mind where I was. Do you know what I mean? And now that I'm aware of that, it's very easy for me to now think, right, okay, I've got to be in that alpha, brainwave to create, to make things happen. Do you know what I mean? But it's not just about the thinking; it's about the action. You take action in that alpha brainwave. Do you know what I mean? In that gamma brainwave, you're coming up with the idea. Do you know what I mean? You're coming up with those new things, those new ideas. But then it's about, being in those other brainwaves. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that beta brainwave where you're like, you're just, those habitual things that you do every day. Do you know what I mean? Those habitual thoughts. And this is what, where I was struggling. This is where I was, when I was thinking, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. Your mind, how do you change your mind? You've got to get out of that brainwave. You've got to get into a new brainwave. Bob talks about it in that video that we watch. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's all there. And now the pieces are starting to come together. So it's kind of fascinating. I find it fascinating. I really do. But listening to you and hearing your examples, I can literally see it now. Do you know what I mean? You can see when you're doing it,
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, because when you become aware of this stuff, when you're not doing it too. Do you know what I mean? And I was on a call 2 weeks ago, and someone said, how do you, I was asked the question, how do you, when you're procrastinating or, whenever you're doing these things, how do you get out of it? How do you do it? I said, you don't do it. You just make excuses as to why you didn't do it, and you pretend that you're going to do it tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? You just don't, but it's that, it's that beta brainwave that you're in. Do you know what I mean? So, but I wasn't aware of that, when I was giving that comment, but now I am. And now I can actually say to myself, hold on a second, I've got to change my brainwave. Bob talks about it in that video. He talks about the frequencies. Do you know what I mean? So everything that we're being told about all of the time, now I'm starting to be able to put the pieces together. Do you know what I mean? And understand it a bit more. But anyway, mind blowing.
Yes, it is.
Right, we'll watch a bit more.
Active your hippocampus means the more power you have access to broadcast your desires into the universe, thus make the law of attraction work, where up until now it probably hasn't worked for you. Look, The Secret is a great book. I recommend you read it. The movie The Secret is a great movie. I recommend you watch it. I know most of the people in there, and they're terrific. Think and Grow Rich. I recommend you read it. The Magic of Believing. I recommend you read it. Your wish is your command. I recommend you read my book that's coming out and also listen to my audios that are out. It's spectacular. Ask and it is given. Spectacular. Karmic Management, The Diamond Cutter, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, The Magic of Thinking Big. These are all great books, and I recommend you read them. But unless you are broadcasting your desire on that billionaire brainwave, it's not going to manifest. The evidence is how many tens of millions of people have read those books and then tried to use the techniques described in the book and then saw no results. It's estimated that over 95% of the people that read The Secret will swear, this doesn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. I didn't manifest anything. Make sense? So, how do you grow the hippocampus? How do you get it bigger? I'll give you a few simple techniques that you can do right now. And then I'm going to show you how to actually broadcast that on that brainwave. Number one, I'm going to tell you to do something that you probably don't do anymore, and very few people do compared to 50 years ago. Read. Yes, read. There's a reason why the government in America, and governments around the world are trying to get people illiterate again, unable to read and write. There's a reason, because they know that reading and writing actually stimulates the hippocampus. I reported this, and this is one of the first reasons why the government came after me and violently attacked me. And this was talked about just recently by the current administration. And this is why they're closing the Department of Education. It was talked about specifically by the leaders in Washington. They said exactly what I said 25 years ago, longer, 30 years ago. And that is the Department of Education took phonics out of the schools and they replaced it with the look-see method. It's called look and guess. They didn't teach phonics. So kids' reading abilities crashed. They can't read anymore because they didn't know phonics. They didn't know how to sound words out, and they stopped looking words up in the dictionary. So the amount of reading people do went down and down and down and down and down. Then they got all these kids on Ritalin and Adderall and all these psychiatric prescribed medications for attention deficit disorder, so they had no ability to focus. If you want to increase the size of your hippocampus, consider reading more. And what kind of books should you read? Well, there's two basic kinds of books. One, we'll call it a self-help book or a positive thinking book. A positive thinking book or a self-help book will inspire you. It'll motivate you. In those books, you have to think, you have to concentrate, you have to create images in your mind of what they're talking about and try to put things together and make conclusions, and you have cognitions. This process is going to stimulate the hippocampus and increase its size. The second kind of book that you want to read is either a novel or a biography or autobiography. These are fantastic. And if you're looking for success, then autobiographies or biographies by wealthy people. Because now you get the best of both worlds. You're reading stories which cause the brain and the mind to create images. And the process of creating images in your mind stimulates the hippocampus and increases its size. It exercises it. When you read a novel, the same thing will happen. But when you're reading an autobiography or a biography, it's a story like a novel, but it's a true story, so you get to picture things better. Picturing things, which is using your imagination, creating images, is a mental exercise to stimulate the hippocampus. So read more. Next, breathing. Breathing should be done in and out through the nose only. The nose is for breathing. The mouth is for eating and drinking. You should not be breathing in and out through your mouth unless you're doing a specific pranayama or breathing exercise or technique for a specific reason. But forget that. All throughout the day and all night, you should be breathing in and out through your nose only, even when you're exercising. I know it's hard when you're exercising really hard, you all of a sudden start panting. Okay, great. When we trained, we would like run stairs. We'd run like 2 or 3 flights of stairs, run. And we would do it all at the same time, breathing in and out through our nose only. And we would see who would be the first person to break down and have to start breathing out of their mouth. And we would time it. And then we would do it the next day and the next day. And everyone started increasing their ability to breathe in and out through their nose and not breathe out of their mouth until we could do the whole series of 20 or 30 minutes of running stairs, breathing in and out through our nose only. It increases your lung capacity, increases your oxygenation. It has tremendous health benefits, physiological health benefits, and also brain power benefits, but it stimulates the hippocampus. Okay, even if you don't exercise, just throughout the day, think about and focus on breathing in and out through your nose. That's number one. And when you breathe in, the stomach goes out a little bit. And when you breathe out, the stomach goes in a little bit. So you put your attention 2 inches below your belly button and practice to get into the habit of breathing this way. Grandmaster Tai, who was a close, dear friend of mine and my Kung Fu and Chi master before he became a grandmaster later in his life, we would train on how to move Chi energy. One of the trainings was breathing properly. And in the beginning, I, like most people, would breathe out of my mouth from time to time and not breathe in and out of my nose. And he pointed out, let's correct that. It'll make you stronger in every way, not just physically, but also mentally, and increase your ability to manifest. Then he pointed out that sometimes, Kevin, you're breathing in and your chest goes out, and you're breathing out and your chest goes in. So you're breathing shallow. If you breathe all the time from your diaphragm, which is 2 inches below your belly button, is where you want to put your attention. So you breathe in, the chest doesn't expand, but the stomach goes out a little bit. And then when you breathe out, the stomach goes in a little bit. Now you're getting a full, complete breath. Well, he came to visit me one time and we were sitting there. I was with Blaine Athorn, Grandmaster Tai, and myself. We were sitting for a couple hours. And after about a couple hours, he's Chinese and he spoke with a pretty heavy accent. Perfect English, but a nice, beautiful, heavy accent. He says, "Oh, I watch your breathing for the last 2 hours. You breathe perfect now. Oh, very good, very good. It now habit. You now on autopilot." And that's where you want to be. Next, associate with winners. If you want to stimulate your hippocampus, associate with like-minded, positive, motivated, inspired people who are dreamers and big thinkers, who are go-getters. When you are in their presence, their physical energy is going to affect you. Your income is going to be the average of your 5 best friends. And some of you are probably thinking, uh-oh, I need to get some new friends. It's true. When you associate with and have as friends and strong relationships and bonds with like-minded, motivated, inspired people that are big dreamers and go-getters, their energy helps permeate yours. And that makes breakthroughs in multiple areas. And one is it helps stimulate the growth of the hippocampus. Next, listening to the sounds of nature, which means, are you listening to crickets or cicadas or birds or the sound of running water or the sound of the wind going through the trees? Those are the sounds of nature, the sounds of animals. Interestingly enough, these sounds affect our brain, our left and right brain hemispheres, and help synchronize it, help us go into an alpha theta state, but also stimulate the growth of the hippocampus. So that means being in nature more often. All wealthy people spent time in nature. One of the most common practices was they went out in nature for a walk. They went, horseback riding. They went for walks. They would go out in the fields. This was very, very common. They would do these things in nature. today we don't do it as much. Okay, if you're doing everything else and you don't do this, you're still going to be fine. But that's another thing to consider. Next is music. Research has proven that music affects living things. One of the most interesting research projects done, and I'm not sure the book that it was revealed in, was there were 2 greenhouses set up side by side that had the identical plants in each one. There was maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 plants in each one. There was a lot in each one. They were identical in every way. In one, they played rock and roll music. And in the other one, they played Baroque classical music, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a month. At the end of the month, the greenhouse with the rock and roll music, almost all of the plants were dead. And the greenhouse with the Baroque classical music, they were all thriving. I mean, just thriving beyond belief. Oh, there was a third room which had no music. And that room was fine as well. But the room with the Baroque classical music, the plants were sometimes 2 or even 3 times bigger and more robust than the room with no music. Then the researchers said, let's put Baroque classical music into the room where the plants are almost dead and see what happens. 30 days later, almost all the plants came back to life and they were thriving again. So Baroque classical music synchronizes the left and right brain hemisphere, puts you in an alpha state, and also stimulates the growth of your hippocampus. Next, dream building, which means expanding your thoughts about what is potentially possible. Dream building is going to big mansions, going to open houses where there's big mansions and looking at a house that you have no chance of affording right now. Going to a $20 million yacht and doing a tour. You have no chance of buying that now. But it expands your dream. Looking at diamond rings and Rolex watches and looking at expensive things, dreaming, looking at pictures of palaces, looking at pictures of beautiful resorts in Tahiti or throughout the world that you can't afford to go to right now. Looking at private jets, pictures of private jets, going seeing private jets, getting close to them. The act of dream building stimulates the hippocampus. This also is increasing your ability to use your imagination and being curious. The more curious you are, it stimulates the hippocampus. Next, learning a new skill. Maybe you've never learned to play the piano. Take piano lessons. That'll increase your ability to stimulate the hippocampus and increase its size. Learning a foreign language. Learning anything, a skill that you don't know now, the act of learning a new skill, learning a foreign language will increase the size or help increase the size of the hippocampus. Next, changing your routine. Just look at your routine, change the time you wake up in the morning, change what you have for breakfast, change the first thing you do, change things in your day. Change what time you leave the office, change the route that you take home. If you're driving to and from the office, change the route. Change things. Next, stop using the GPS. Try to figure out how to get home. Try to figure out how to get to that location. Use your mind. This is training your brain, which is stimulating the hippocampus. And next is cursive writing. When you write, most people print and they're horrible, but actually work on writing in cursive and trying to get it beautiful and legible. If you look at just look at some of the old kids in the 4th or 5th grade, they used to write essays in cursive. And I remember I looked at papers, and I looked at this paper from these children in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. They wrote an essay, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages in cursive. It was perfect. Today, nobody can write as good as that, and these were children. So by writing cursive, it stimulates all these neural pathways and stimulates and increases the size of the hippocampus. So that will increase the size of the hippocampus. Now, How do you get your brain broadcasting on that sweet spot between alpha and theta? And the answer is there are some specific ways to focus and put your brain in that state, but that's very advanced. But I'm going to give you something that's easy, that's not advanced. And that is, do the things that put you in that state. And then you'll start developing the habit of being in that state. So what are some of the things that will put you in that state? Not number one, and I foo-fooed this earlier, it's meditation. And I did a whole show, if you haven't watched it, on how to meditate. There's a simple technique. What most people call meditation is really guided visualization. It's not meditation at all. True meditation will put you in an alpha theta state. Actually, probably even more theta than alpha. Rich people, most of them don't meditate, although many do. Jerry Seinfeld was well known as being a meditator, and many other successful people, but it's not the norm for billionaires, but it is something that can be done, and it's something that you can certainly do. So meditation is one thing that'll put you in that state, and then you'll feel what it's like to be in that state. And this is why biofeedback is used, because when you can see that you're in that state, now you start getting a feel for what that state is, and then you start learning how to put yourself in that state. Next is music. I talked about Baroque classical music. Baroque classical music will put you in that state, and that's a good place to be. Next is interesting. Doing something that gets you focused where there's no distractions. One of the things that I used to do was chop wood. Because I had an axe with a really sharp blade, and I'd go out there and I'd start chopping wood. And unless you're focused, that blade can come down and slip, and you can chop your leg off. You can hit an artery and die and bleed to death. You had to be focused. And when you're focused on a repetitive action like chopping wood or shoveling snow or picking weeds or gardening, something like that, it puts you in that alpha theta state. Some other things, cooking. Anything where you're in the act of creating, picking flowers, gardening, fishing, golfing, playing tennis. Another thing I used to do was in my homes, I had pool tables. In one home, I had two pool tables, one on one floor and one on another floor. And I'd be working and working, and I'd say, I need to get a break because I can feel I'm going into beta, the analytical slave wave where you're not going to manifest. So I'd go over to the pool table and I start running balls, and I'd really focus. And all of a sudden, I could feel my brain go right back. Then I go back to work. I'm in that state. And then all of a sudden, everything just starts clicking because you get into the flow. Playing tennis, swimming, repetitive actions like running or walking. Walking is ideal because when you're walking, you're getting two things. You're walking outside, so you're hearing the sounds of nature, unless you're in the city. And the act of walking, and someone said, what if I walk and I have headphones on and I listen to Baroque classical music at the same time? Or I had my headphones on and I'm listening to sounds of nature because I'm in the city. Excellent. These things will start putting you in this brainwave frequency. Now, does it work? I got a quote here from a former NBA player. And by the way, I looked at, before I did the show, dozens of these quotes. But here's one I thought was kind of cool. We're talking about training the brain and training yourself to put yourself in the alpha theta brainwave frequency band. He says, my whole life I've struggled getting through school. I was taking all these pills. He was on this Adderall and Ritalin and all these different ADH and, psych drugs. I wasn't getting good grades. I couldn't pay attention. I got yelled at a lot, and I got into a lot of trouble. I was frustrated. I went through a lot. But once I started training my brain to get into the alpha theta state, it changed my life, the way I act and the way I think. And it's helped my game so much. When you broadcast your desire on the billionaire brainwave, the wealth wave, which is right in between theta and alpha, and you do all the other elements of the manifesting formula, you're going to affect everything in the physical universe. You're going to affect other people because it's being picked up. That broadcast that you're putting out is being picked up by other people's brains. It's going to affect the way they think and the way they act. And you are going to manifest in your life more of what you want faster and easier than ever before. For more info on this, listen to the entire Your Wish is Your Command audio series that I have. I have a book coming out probably in a few months, which goes into this at length. My Success Mastery course, my Science of Personal Mastery.
Nearly did it again. Nearly did it again. Nearly. So, like, excuse me. Yeah, of course. So you've got read more, breathe in, associate with winners. It was interesting because in the other half of that, he talks about just going to places where wealthy people hang out, like country clubs and things like this, and just being around them. You know, you're in their energy, you know, and you're picking up stuff, you know. We also mentioned there the ether, which is interesting. You know, the breathing one, you know, God, Joey, you know, years ago, you know, when I first moved to the countryside, oh my God, it was, you know, like when you live in the city, right? You know, you have all these time reminders, kids to and from school, people leaving for work. You can almost set your clock by it, you know. You don't even need to know what the time it is because your neighbor leaves to go to work every morning at the same time, the exact same time. Do you know what I mean? Coming home, everything, you know. When you move out to the countryside, and you're going to know this anyway from actually just being an islander and living on the island, you know, so you're probably at an advantage to most. But when I moved out to the countryside, bloody hell, it was like, oh my God, it's so noisy. But the noise was in my head. It was the chatter in my head. Do you know, I was chatting away all the time to myself. And I can't remember who I spoke to, but I spoke to somebody about it. And they were saying, Mick, you need to practice being bored. I'm like, what? Yeah, he says, you need to practice being bored. You need to go and sit outside, concentrate on your breathing, you know, and listen. That's all you need to do. And I was literally, and I just did this. I just went outside, you know, so there was no kind of electric buzz or anything else like that. Do you know what I mean? Went outside and I'm just kind of concentrating on my breathing in through my nose. Do you know what I mean? This kind of stuff. And I'm just listening. And I can hear birds and things like this, and, you know, and all the chatter in my head went away. It just went away. Never really came back. Do you know what I mean? Changed my life. Absolutely. And then I found that breathing technique in the Hindu Book of Breathing, which, and I remember reading the Hindu Book of Breathing a couple of months ago. And I'm like, oh my God, that's that practicing being bored technique that I was doing. Do you know what I mean? You know? Yeah. So that kind of stuff is good. I'm interested in find out more about the Baroque music, because we actually have music on at the house. Do you know what I mean? It's more like piano jazz type stuff. Do you know, more like lounge kind of piano. You know, let me see, learn a new skill, dream building. We all love dream building, right? You know, yeah, so there's a whole bunch in that list. And if you do all those things, you know, this is all about helping that hippocampus, you know, the pineal gland, get them to grow so you can broadcast, you know, much further into the ether, as he was talking about, which there's no doubt that, you know, when I think about, you know, the book, The Science of Getting Rich, you know, formless substance that all things, you know, that fills every space, you know, he's talking about that's that ether, you know, so you might call it the Holy Spirit, you know, you could call it that if you wanted to as well. But again, it's just fascinating stuff, Joe, fascinating stuff. But listen, what I want to get is I want to get your final thoughts, you know. Let me have a look. Where is it? Because I've missed, you know, I've missed your final thoughts. So I want to hear them. We want to hear Joey's final thoughts, you know, on this self-mastery, really, you know, understanding the brain waves, you know, the theta, gamma, or theta alpha, particularly the, what do you call it? The millionaire brainwave.
Millionaire.
You know, It's fascinating. Right, go. Give us your final thoughts, Joey.
Mike, I have to say first, I want to thank you, and I want to give you the credit for picking those wonderful piece of resource so that we can I call it, we call it mastery, we call it mastermind. It's so powerful. And I was listening to this guy tonight, and I said to myself, how thankful I am, how grateful I am to be with you on a journey together. That something that you're interested in it, and we can add value to our people, to our listener, to our audience. And because we are the first one to study it and share our thoughts, I think I'll be silly if I say I don't learn first hand or get the benefit out of it. And I think with the sharing that I share with you tonight about my journey back in January, and how things were aligned and how things were laid out to me, and it's all up to me whether I have the choice to whether to take advantage of the opportunity that was laid in front of me, whether it's a little kid asking for something to eat, or my physio friends want to talk to me, or my uncle as a minister want to spend some time with me and hear my story, hear my journey. And it's all gone down to those things that we just learn about. It starts from what we think about in our mind, and I think everything starts from what we think about it. And we can go back to a lot of resource, as a man thinks, even in the Bible, someone talk about it. We become who we think about all day long. And this resource that you show with us, I have to go back. I remember when we first started, one of the things that I start doing is reading. Let's go back to the reading. I always tell myself I'm always challenged by reading. And I listen more like to audio books, but I know the difference when I start reading, it stay longer in my mind, in my brain. And we talk about new terminology, and excuse us if you are listening to this and you're wondering what is hippocampus. Even myself, I have to Google it, Mike, and I'm surprised. Hippocampus in Google is a part of your brain that's responsible for your memory and your learning. And with those things, those gifts that we have to look after it. And a lot of people, they invest a lot of things in maybe cars or nice house or nice vacation, but they forgot to invest in something in their health, in their brain. They are the most important asset that we have. And I think, in my opinion, I think Mike can agree. And sometimes we don't look after those things. And I think sometimes, the most precious things that we have, the most important things that we have in life was given to us for free, including our health, our brain, our life, our spirit. It was given for us for free, but we don't even bother to look after them, but when we do look after them, it's like a seed that was planted in us. And our job, we have the choice. And I think that's the difference for us from other living things in the world, even a tree, an animal, that we have the choice whether we want to make it to become, learn more about it, or, cultivate it so we can have the full potential of that gift that was given to me. Tree can grow as much as it can to the height or the width that it meant to be. But as human being, we don't grow fully because we have the freedom. We have the choice whether to grow as big as we want, or we just stay as comfortable as where we are. And but other living things like trees, the dog can bark as much as he want to bark, but as human being, we have the choice whether we want to explore that gift to the full potential. And tonight, what are wonderful things that we have, and I have to give the credit to the person who share his knowledge for us through the media, through YouTube. And this guy, knowledge and his background, and what he learned, and he's also passed it on to us, and we get to hear that. And it's always, as a student, we all learn from people in the past, present, and also continue on. And I think one thing that we learn, Mike, in our journey, we want to be a great student. We want to stay as a student and learn as much as we can. I think the only time that we stop learning is when we go to the grave. And I think a lot of people, and I experienced that in my journey, that a lot of people, especially nowadays, they thought when I done high school or college or university, I'm done with school. And I think that's why those people, they don't grow as much as we would love them to grow, because they make a personal decision to stop learning. And when you stop learning, you stop growing. And I think that's what we learned from our journey tonight. The more we learn, the more we know that we are not growing in our journey, because we are not open to the possibility of allowing some new information, new wisdom to come to us, because we are the only one who stop it. And I think, we had a lot of, in our professional, the limit of our income and our success is based on what we decided to base on. It's based on our decision making. If we don't decide to earn this amount of much in a month, exactly that's what is going to happen. And I think I come across a lot of things nowadays that to change your result, you have to change the way you think. To change the way you, because when you change the way you think, you implant in yourself a new philosophy that, I can do more, I can jump more, I can have more in life. And I think, if we can go back, just to reminding our people, our brain is the most powerful things that we have. And I think a lot of people have the awareness that when you invest in yourself, especially invest in your growth and your learning, to improve the quality of the things in your brain, as like hippocampus, that's the part that's responsible for your memory and your learning. When you stop invest in those things, it limits your capability to earn more, to give more, to travel more, to make an impact more, or make a difference more in other people's lives. So, tonight I'm so grateful. If I can remind you that we can expand the part of our brain that can hold a memory and have the ability to learning as a hippocampus, like the guy said. First, you have to read, and reading, there's a lot of benefit, and a lot of successful people, they said leaders are reader, and those people, they I think that's one of the common denominator. That's most of the leader, they are reader. They read books, they read personal development book, they read audio biography, because when you read story about people, successful people, it's inspiring you, it's uplifting you, it gives you the vision that if they can do it, we can do it. And I wonder why the profession of network marketing encourage events to bring people who are already done, who have earned a certain amount of income through the company, to walk on the stage and let the other people who just started, or people who struggling, to look up a little bit better and hear their story, because their story make the people change, and in our professional, we know that events change people, because it's not because of the what's inside it, but it's what they can learn by hearing, by learning, by speaking, by touching those people, shaking their hand. They feel their energy, and it's transmitted from those successful people to us. And tonight, breathing. We think breathing is a small thing, but breathing is one of the most important elements. Not only to keep us alive, if we don't breathe, we're gonna die. But there is a certain way, and if we can adjust it, instead of breathing with our mouth. And, a lot of people, like, even including myself, I talk and breathe at the same time, but I forgot to breathe. When I exercise, I try to implement that in my exercise now. I can tell the difference. At first, it was struggle to exercise, especially do weight-bearing exercise and cardio. It's hard because your heart is pumping, and you need oxygen to recycle to your system. But I when I start to implement, try to breathing with your nose in and out, or out from your mouth. But when I try to in from my nose, it's hard at the first. But then I realize, man, I feel good when I breathe in through my nose and out from my nose. But it take time. Anything worthwhile in life, it take time. So breathing, can help increase the part of our brain that hold the good memory, the positive memory, and learn new things in life that improve the quality of your result, your income, your career, your future. And also the association. No doubt about it. Associating Mike is very important. That's why I hang around with people like Mike. We live far away. How many distance, to go from here to Ireland, I have to travel places before I reach there. But I feel the energy, the vibration, the way he thinks, and we'll get to a state now, like this guy said, build yourself to a state that when you get to that state, you'll be able to connect with other people that are in the same state, same frequency. And that's why I love, sharing with Mike every week, because I want to get into to Mike's frequency, to his energy, so I can share it with other people too. And I'm very grateful that I make friends, and also being business partner, and also collaborate with Mike in a lot of ways, especially our little programs that we able to help. And if I can listen to sound of nature, even go for a walk, go for a hike, listen to bird. I think if you go back and watch some of my posts, Mike, in the morning I take a picture of the kookaburra and of our front yard, of the trees, of our hedges, our garden, and I make sure that I record the sound of the birds. And sound of the bird, there's a popular bird in Australia, it's kookaburra, and they sound like this, and it sounds funny and simple, but it reminds me how abundant this world I'm living in. When I look at the garden, it's so green, nature, the calm trees, the skies, and the ray of the sunshine. It reminds us how precious, how lucky I am to be alive, to live in a country, like Australia, and embrace the abundance of the world. And if you want to see abundance, go outside and go to nature. Look at the trees, look at the mountain, look at the environment you surround with, because you will be surprised that some people, they think about lacking and not enough. This world is so poor and so not enough. Go out there, go out to the world, go out to nature. You will see abundance. You see the grass green all the time. Even the grass it reminds us in winter they're full of ice, and you walk past them, but in summer and spring they come back. They were dying in winter because of the cold and the weather, but in summer, and you say, how the heck these grass are surviving? But it reminds us, as a human being, we're a survivor. We can survive different seasons in life, difficulties, adversity. It reminds us that you were born to survive. You're born to thrive. You're born to be greener. Because when you understand that concept, no matter where you are, you will touch a lot of people, because people see you like the grass, the nature. They see you have a positive impact and perspective about life and other people's too. And music, Mike, sometimes when I felt tired, and I just pump the music in my car, just close the door and just hit some music, maybe some love song that I played to my wife when we were dating, and it's remind me back the day. and it's a different vibration. I feel alive, feel awake. It reminds me of those people that they make a positive impact in my life. And no doubt, music can change a lot of things. In the experiment they did with the plant, how good was that? Even no sound can still make a positive impact in that. But music, sometimes they said, the lyric is like a food for the spirit. When you hear a good song, good lyric, it help you, uplifting you, it empower you, and remind you that you can be who you want to be, and go out there and make a positive impact in other people's life. Dream building, so true. Even myself, you see me, found me in one of the best beach in Australia, because I go there with intention. I don't say much, but I go there because I want one day I'm going to live around a nice beach in the world. And I went to that, even though it take me 3 hours. And I think my wife and myself will go there this weekend because we're both free. It just not only to have the time, but it give me the vision that this is where I want to retire. This is where I want to live quietly, enjoy the walking on the beach, bare feet, and hear the wave talking to me, and something like that. So dream building, go to a nice house. Even myself, I throw myself into the home display place, and my wife said to me, why we want to go there? I said, just come and have a look. There's a new thing, new features. And when you go there, your mind expands. It give you the picture. It paints you the picture. If I can live in a house like that, if I can have a house like this one day. But some people they look at it in a negative way. They think, oh, these guys want to be different from us. But for me, I want to increase my memory, my learning memory, my desire, and I want to transmit that to the world through the places I went. And that's why I take camera everywhere. I just put a little, invest in a little GoPro, and I start uploading some of the beaches that I went to with my wife lately in our holiday. The people I blessed them on the journey, the food that we ate, the lobster, the nice food back in the island, the seafood. And I did that with intention, not to impress you, but to impress upon you, so that hopefully I make a positive impact in your life. And Mike, we can go along, but learning a new skill, man, this thing here, sometime in my journey, honestly, when I come across a piece of mastery like this, they remind me, Joey, in your journey, you already done those things here. You just need to be maybe increase it, amplify it, think that you do less, do more, the place that you went to, the beaches, the nice beaches you went to a different beach, try different things so that your mind expand, hang around with different people, associate with another level of a community, or learn a new skill, play a different sport. I used to play tennis. Now there's another sport now I try, speakable. I met new people, have fun. If I stay in tennis, I won't be access to other people's community. But pickable allow me to have fun more with people, talk, to have conversation, and share my journey, my story with other people. And changing route, I love this one. Start to not rely on GPS, because nowadays we rely on GPS. I remember when I first came to Australia, we used the map, and it's take time for me to and I went lost. Then I work it out, the reference there. Now in the army, we use quick reference, and canvas when we go on field. You have to have those skills are very important, not only to get you to your destination, but it help develop your brain, so that instead of you rely on technology and tools and equipment, but give you the courage and confidence to rely on yourself. Because we have a gift, and that gift is very powerful. And if you understand that you were born rich with that gift. And that gift is our brain. The thing that we need us to think, that drive us, that's the CPU of our life. Central processing unit. In the computer, that's the CPU. But in ourself, we have the brain. And the brain can, take you to where you want to go, or you stay on the same. It all depends on what you think about it and what you put in your things, connect it with your heart, and go out there and do something. Stop using the GPS as number 9. And the last one, sorry, Mike, it's a long one. I think I'm just trying to sum up with last week and this week. Writing in cursive. I'm not sure what cursive, but he's so right. When we used to be in school, we write a letter, like writing essay, expository essay, a lot of essay, debating essay, or whatever. But it's so true. You try to impress the people you write but make sure they understand your writing and you master. And I remember back in primary school, we start with writing, writing class, that we have to know how to go lightly, figure all day. And back in the day, it was boring. We didn't understand. But look, everywhere I go, people want to look at my note. And even people come in and check my journal. They said, you have one of the best handwriting that we ever saw. You write like a girl. But I said, for me, I don't look at my writing. I keep trying to mastering my writing all the time. I keep saying to myself, no, I'm glad that they make me the compliment. But I said to myself, I just still need to improve. And I just keep writing. And I think I got that from my dad. He's a journalman. He always take books with me. And if I can finish my sharing tonight, Mike, with one thing. In my car nowadays, I listen to audio books. I listen to some audio program or seminar, or the program that we listen to. And I have a notebook with me. And this notebook, I have a few of them. It's just like a little notebook like it. And when I stop in a traffic light, quickly, whatever come to my mind that captures from my brain captures from that audio, whether it's to stay positive, I write it, stay positive. And then at the end of the week, I just review what I said. And I said to myself, maybe it doesn't really add value to me now, but hopefully one of my grandchildren or my children will come and open up my journal one day, and they look at it and say, oh, that's what my grandfather wrote. And hopefully it will add value to them or make them go and do something that add value to their life. And hopefully my testimony, my name will be appear on their testimony. Mike, thank you very much for the time. I know I'm a little bit carried away, but I think I'm so happy and grateful that for you, for always bring great mastery and great piece of information for us to review and also share with our audience. I appreciate you, my friend, and God bless you, everyone that's watching this.
Wonderful, Joey. To be honest, that was a lovely recap. And as you were talking, I was thinking, let go, let God, give in, and practice being the best version of yourself, be personally responsible. And look, Joey, to be honest, listen, thank you so much, because, your words are important. Do you know what I mean? And you're making a difference. And then when you're writing down your words as well, it makes a difference too. It makes a difference. And like you say, not just for you, but maybe for those generations that are coming behind you. Do you know what I mean? This is the kind of man you are. This is the kind of person that you are. These are your thoughts. And just, it's exactly as you say, thoughts become things, and you're an amazing example of that. And someone that I'm grateful to be in your footsteps. Do you know what I mean? Following you as well. So listen, appreciate it. Listen, we're going to sign out with the video that we always begin with and end with. And there's a reason why, because everything's in it. Everything is in it. And the more and more I watch it, the more I think, oh yeah, and there's that, and there's that, and there's that. Right. Well, listen, amazing, Joe. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it because I know it's late where you are and, of course, early where I am. So my day's beginning. Yours is almost over. And I appreciate you taking the time away from your friends and family and everything else to be here with me. It means a lot. So thank you, Joey. And listen, you've been watching Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, episode 130, the missing ingredient. And, of course, now we know what it is. There's nothing stopping you from getting all of those things that you really want in life and living the life that you really want to live. You just have to take the next step. And you can do that. You can take the next step with Joye and I. Reach out to Joey on his Facebook page. Reach out to me on my Facebook page. Better still, pick up the phone and call me. Send me a message. I'm happy to talk, happy to share, and I want to see you succeed too in whatever it is that you're doing. And again, look, right, see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Now, do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, by God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now, all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.